Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us on this video. So today we're going to be looking at making sense of data. So the data we would have collected through our evaluation and through some conversations, through some surveys, through some interviews, focus groups, different ways. So I'm Louis Ryan from the Realist Evaluation Workshop series, and today I've got two guests from Active Essex LDP evaluation team. Hibah and Rowena. They are both embedded researchers for Active Essex, and they're going to be joining us today to talk about some of their experiences and just share what it's like to go through some of the data. Now, just to recap where we sort of are on our evaluation journey. So we've looked at phase one, which is develop. We'd have developed our ideas, our assumptions, how we think our project works, how our program works, our ways of working, how it does or doesn't work, and how and why we do see things working or not working. And into stage two, looking at the testing. So we've got our ideas, we want to test them, to confirm them, to refine them, check if what we think is right, using a variety of different methods, looking to capture some data. But actually now we're in the stage of making sense of data, and then this will help lead us into refining and learning to find out, well, what do our findings say? So initially, we just want to talk about how we can make sense of data, and just a couple of key points around for realist evaluation. There is limited guidance and training related to analysing realist data. Not to say that there isn't any training, and the CARES training delivered by Justin Jagosh has been really helpful for the team and myself. So it can be quite confusing for people at the start of their realist evaluation journey. And I think it'd be really good time to bring in Hibah and Rowena to just talk about the start of your journey within realist evaluation, and especially when we're looking at making sense of the data. And wondering if one of you wanted to jump in, maybe Hibah, if you want to talk about the start of your journey.
Sure. I think initially I did struggle a bit because I'm used to doing, the traditional qualitative research. So then coming in to this new sort of realist way of doing things, and I didn't do the training until just under a year later. So I think during that time I was trying to make sense, reading like journal articles, looking for guidance and things, and you're right, there isn't like a fixed structure, a fixed way of doing things, which someone like me, I think I would have appreciated. But for me, the training really helped to sort of make sense of it, give it some structure and just be taught in a slightly more formal setting.
I think that's a really good point around how some people would like to almost follow a protocol sheet. They were saying step one is this, step two is this. And I think where realist evaluation is quite adaptive for the situation. It's about being realistic for what you can do in the evaluation. It's really important that there is some sort of guidance or starting position, because, for example, Rowena, you've not long started your realist journey. So I was just wondering, do you feel similar to how Hibah felt? Is there some more positive news, some more negative news? How do we feel?
You sort of took the words out of my mouth there, Louis, about the pragmatic side of realist evaluation. So I think when I first started, I wanted to read everything and understand how people had gone about it, what practices they'd employed, what software they'd used. But finding my own feet with it and starting to think about how I want to approach it myself and really taking ownership of the process, I found really interesting, and trying to think about how realist evaluation has to be useful. There's a great quote that I can't quite bring to mind right now, but it's about making it work for you. And I think the training, the summer school that I went on, it really emphasized that, like finding your own way and taking a pragmatic approach. So whatever that looks like, sort of building your own guidelines, I found really empowering.
That's really cool to hear. And yeah, the pragmatic nature of it, but building your own guidelines, that's the element that does make it quite difficult for some people. When you read a paper or a journal or someone shows you their evaluation, you can't just pick it up and copy it because of how pragmatic it has been for that individual or that. Which is why part of these videos is we just want to explore it a little bit more and just have the conversation around realist evaluation and how some people might almost show an interest or be triggered to be more involved and say, you know what, how might this work for us, and then dig a little bit deeper, and then something that we can hopefully support with. Now, the embedded researchers, both Hibah and Rowena, have been getting to grips with it, putting it into the context of collecting data through interviews, focus groups, whether that's surveys, whether that's a variety of methods, bringing in stories and narratives. And it can be quite difficult from the beginning. I mean, Hibah, you talk about the challenge around coming in and not doing the training till a year later. Rowena, about coming in and immersing yourself with loads of realist evaluation reading, but actually, right, can we just dive into the data? What do we have to do then? So it'd be really cool to find out what do we mean then by getting familiar with the data for someone that's not involved in data or making sense of what the data means. What does getting familiar with the data mean?
I guess it's trying to understand things from different points of view and looking at things with an open mind. I think for me, in this role, I started and got straight into the data collection. So there's some things I didn't really know why I was looking into it, or that sort of deeper understanding in that moment when I started the role. But then looking at it over time, now we're in sort of the data analysis refinement stage. I'm looking at the data in a different way, and I'm seeing things that I didn't see earlier on in data collection.
Okay, so this refamiliarization, going through the data again. Part of the realist way is it's a constant loop of going through the data, testing it, developing it, testing it, and then refining it, and again going back. So it's really helpful to be able to go back and go through it. And is that something that you've been able to do, Hibah, is to actually, you know what, we're ready to refine it and we've got the theories, our new ideas, but actually, you know what, maybe there's some new information that we've already collected that will support.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been reading over transcripts from interviews I did like a year ago, and I'm thinking, oh my God, why didn't I catch that at the time? This is huge. And there's these things coming out which I couldn't remember. And it's like there's just so much data, but there's so much there that it's nice that that was there, even if I didn't understand it at the time. It's still really interesting.
And have you seen by doing some of the realist training that we talk about the skills have developed and actually that confidence grows in terms of spotting these things as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm looking at the data in a different way. Before I had the training, and I do feel more confident now. So yeah, that's definitely a good feeling.
Really lovely to hear. And Rowena, having not been in the role too long, you've came in and there was data collected by Rob Southall-Edwards, the previous embedded researcher. What was that like going through data that someone else collects?
I think that process has challenges, but also has real strengths. So I think being able to fully immerse myself in the data, that's a term that Justin Jagosh uses a lot, data immersion, sort of really sitting with the data, reading through it all. And because it had already been collected by someone else, I was able to just dive in and read everything. It was very time consuming, I'll say that. But because I was coming at it with fresh eyes, I hadn't been in the room when these conversations were happening. I just read the output, this transcript. Because I was approaching it with fresh eyes, I was bringing sort of an alternative perspective to it, and that while difficult in some ways, meant that I could ask questions that perhaps if I had done the interviews, I wouldn't have asked, because, well, I mean, people just come at it from different perspectives, don't they? So bringing those fresh eyes to the transcripts was a real benefit, I think.
I think it's really important as well, like for those moments. And it might be that a practitioner goes out, collects the data, when they can collect lots of what I like to call golden nuggets of information that will really support the organization, whether it's as a communications piece, marketing piece, as a learning piece. But actually having somebody else read through it, it's almost that different perspective. You ask questions that might seem really obvious to the practitioner, so they've already got it, but actually, because it's so obvious, they don't necessarily write it down, or they think, well, everyone knows that. So there's things that can be so important, but are just missed because it was not a second pair or a third pair of eyes saying, well, what does this actually mean? Or, well, why does this happen? Or how did that happen? And I think it's really important to have that perspective. And I think, I don't know about you guys, but I find it really helpful to talk through the data as well with someone, albeit within a safe space, especially with anonymized data, to just chat about, you know what, these are some of the stories that are coming out of the data. I just want to talk through. I just want to get some perspective on it from someone else, or I just want to say, does this actually make sense, or have I just gone down a bit of a rabbit warren and got lost? And is that something you guys have been able to do together with other people, whether it's at workshops or just over a coffee?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no research happens in a vacuum, but especially with realist evaluation, I've definitely benefited from speaking to yourself, Louis, and to you, Hibah, about the findings that we're coming across, and sort of teasing out those issues and getting second and third pairs of eyes on things. So I think if you're planning to do some realist evaluation yourself, make sure you have a team of people that you can discuss what you're finding from that, because it's a really valuable thing to have.
Definitely, and I really enjoyed in some of my past evaluations talking through some of the new ideas that are being generated, these new assumptions, even with some of the participants that I'm speaking with, just to share. Actually, you know, does the program work this way? Does this have this impact? And it's quite nice when they can say, actually, you know what, for me it does, or for me it doesn't, and then we can sort of have a conversation to go a bit deeper. So we don't even need to speak to our colleagues or other researchers about it. There's people that are part of the project that will happily help us. And ultimately, our goal is to refine our ideas with as much context and understanding of the mechanisms involved. So it's quite an enjoyable way as well to speak about it and collect data at the same time. So coding the data, Rowena, what do we mean by this?
So coding data is going through data, whatever that looks like. So for us, it's typically transcripts of interviews or focus groups, going through that and sort of highlighting passages, sentences, words that speak to your theories that you're testing, your ideas that you have about a program. And you can do this in lots of different ways. You can go through Word documents and highlight it that way. You can pull parts out and put them in a spreadsheet, or do it the old-fashioned way on paper. We started, or certainly when I started, we were using NVivo, which is data analysis software. And the way that works is basically you have separate buckets that you can put data in, and you code it to those themes. And I think when I started, as I mentioned earlier, when I started, I was very keen to do things by the book, and sort of built these quite elaborate NVivo projects and was coding things, but it's very, very time consuming doing it that way. And you do get that level of rigor because you're going through every single line and coding what you find to a theme. But it's not always the most pragmatic way to approach data analysis, especially in a fast-paced environment like the one we're working in.
Absolutely, and I think it's even the word coding at times can just put people off. and it's something that is really important to get almost a perspective of people deep in the program or involved in the project, or the way of working of an organization, to be able to almost give that additional information by not necessarily coding, but or traditional coding, but data journaling. So, you know what, can you just keep a note of what's going on and then almost highlight what are some of the key things that have happened, what are some of the key things that helped us reach some of these outcomes. And I guess that fast-paced environment will be very similar for many people, and there's always going to be some pressures on, whether that's to hit a deadline, to try and access some funding, to try and gain some additional support. It's really important that we don't lose that rigor, and we aren't selective with the data we choose to risk, or to help us with what we need, but actually the importance of what we're learning from this, and how this can then support with future project development or change ways of working, or just to help try and evidence or validate what's going on, as proof. So it's something that I've really enjoyed doing, and having that narrative around that. And it's something that can continue to be done, to worked on and improved and added to as it goes along. So Hibah and Rowena, just want to say a big thanks for joining today. It's been really helpful to get your thoughts and your experiences, especially around something that's quite complex and can be quite difficult, without a real support system in place or a structure to be able to follow. But I think we have hopefully discussed the realist evaluation and the data, making sense of the data. We're looking at a pragmatic approach, and maybe something like data journaling, or just journaling around your project or program, allows that greater enjoyment or freedom to help collect some of this and make sense of this data. So for those that are interested in finding out more around data analysis within realist evaluation, we do have a longer workshop that's a bit over 1 hour long, that is accessible for you guys to watch and dig a bit deeper, as well as some resources online if you do wish to dig a bit deeper. So please feel free to get in touch with myself, Louis, Ryan, and I'm more than happy to share those bits with you. But for now, I just want to say big thanks to Hibah and Rowena for joining us today, and hopefully catch you on another video soon. Thanks, guys.